Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sri Radha Madhava ki Sri Radha Giridhari ki Gaur Premanandi Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Jaja Shudra Sri Madhava Divine Grace Abai Charanara Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Jaja Shudra Sri Madhava Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Gosa Maharaj Mubarak ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai The glorious day of Lord Ramachandra's victory over the 10-headed Ravana ki The appearance day of Srila Madhvacharya ki Go Premanandi all glories to the assembled devotees all glories assembled devotees all glories assembled devotees all glories CC Guru and Siddhi Gauranga So there's a lot of material to cover today, so breakfast will be lunch. I said there's a lot of material to cover today, so breakfast will be at lunchtime. Just try to get a reaction there, that's all. Jai, srimadbhagavatam ki jai. That's it. So this morning I picked the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, but why Krishna comes to this material world, because it reflects this, especially this pastime of Lord Ramachandra. And of course that also means Krishna is sending his devotees in the material world for the same purposes. And Srila Madhvacharya came for this purpose also. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, 8th verse of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Anyone like to chant? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. It's an important verse, pivotal to your Krishna consciousness. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Word for word. Paritranaya, for the deliverance. Sadhunam, of the devotees. Vinashaya, for the annihilation. Cha, and duskritam, of the miscreants. Dharma, principles of religion. Samstapana artaya, to re-establish. Sambhavami, I do appear. Yuge, millennium. Yuge, after millennium. Can you open that door just a little bit? A little bit fresh air in. Translation. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. Please repeat. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksulinminitam Dina Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaitin Radha Shivasati Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchika Padrupascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So with your permission, I'll try to say a few words. This particular verse is in a succession of verses in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna is a little bit confused, because Krishna is saying in the beginning of the 4th chapter that he spoke this Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, Vivaswan, and Vivaswan in turn handed it down like that to the Manu and Ikshvaku and so on. And Arjuna said, wait a second. You're my contemporary. How could you have spoken this Bhagavad Gita millions and millions and millions of years ago? So Krishna is saying, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them. But you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. And he says, although I am unborn, and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So he's starting to explain the avatar. Now Krishna comes, yuge, millennium after millennium. He's eternal. And actually in that previous verse, it's pointed out in the purport that Arjuna and Krishna are always together. But Krishna always remembers. But Arjuna, as a jiva, forgets. And whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. In today's verse, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion. I advent myself, or I appear, millennium after millennium. And then the really good news is verse 9. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So therefore the devotees are always tushanti cha, ramanti cha. They're always discussing Krishna's pastimes and instructions in an attempt to, as is described here, to understand Krishna's nature in truth, how he does come to this material world, how he has his different avatars, and his different pastimes, how they're all transcendental, and for the pleasure of his devotees. And he comes himself, or he sends his representatives. So who should we talk about first, Madhvacharya or the Lord Ramachandra's killing of Ravana? Should we discuss Vaishnava or Vishnu first? Vaishnava. Okay. Now, Madhvacharya is coming to this material world, or coming to this world, this planet. He volunteered. There's a pastor, major demigod, that says, I have a project or a mission. I like asking all demigods to send someone to the Earth planet to refute this Sankaracharya and Mayavad philosophy. I need a volunteer. So he's looking at the demigods. I need a volunteer to do this. And Vayu came forward. Vayu said, I'll do it. I'll do it. So actually he volunteered to come as Madhvacharya. He was a volunteer. Wasn't forced. He was kind of quite enlivened. And I have my glasses here. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And as Vayu actually descends in at different times. Of course, as Hanuman, right? As Madhvacharya, as Bhima. So he comes and absorbs himself in assisting the Lord's pastimes. But I'm not going to read the whole book here. I just want to give a little. My internet's off on this here, so but here it says in the beginning that the exact date, 13. Sorry. Here it is. AD 1238. That's when he appeared. Near Udupi, near South India, on the west coast in South India, in Udupi. There's a beautiful town of Udupi, and he took birth near there, in one town. And his birth is quite amazing, and his appearance was foretold, and so on. And because of his being a incarnation of Vayu, his bodily strength was, practically speaking, incomparable. And there are many different pastimes to attest to that. In his early childhood, I remember going there with some devotees. The place where he was born, the place as a child he killed this, stomped on a little snake, who was actually a demon, the big snake. There's a little temple there. But we're up on this hill, and the devotee was explaining there's a temple there, a moth established by him. And he was saying that he used to play here, and then he showed off in the distance where his house was. And his mother would call sometime, and in a single jump he'd be there. It's like you jumping from Kearney Mesa to the temple. Hey, it's time for Mangal Arti. And as a child, he'd just immediately show up. He says one time his father was in debt, so what he took, tamarind seeds, and just turned them into gold. Paid off all his father's debts. Nice kid, huh? But so many different pastimes in his childhood, and then he moved into the ashram. I just wanted to read a little bit about that because his preaching mood. I mean, he's very, very strong and powerful, and he used to actually, with his disciples, engage in wrestling. In fact, one big wrestler who was famous, like you see these guys, what is that called? Yeah, the wrestling, whatever, the big chunky guys like that, like just, you know, like eat nails for breakfast or something. So one of these guys looked something like Santoshi, big guy. I said, go ahead. Actually, one thing, he put his foot on the ground once. He says, lift my foot, and he couldn't even lift his toe, right? And he grabbed him by the neck. He couldn't do a thing. But anyways, he used to actually wrestle with his disciples, wrestling with his disciples. Probably that's a Vaishnava sport, wrestling. I remember we used to wrestle a little bit in the backyard when it wasn't all paved like that. It was a grassy area. I remember I wrestled Shivananda. Shivananda is a Prabhupada disciple when he was here. We had a wrestling match. I won't tell you who won. I'm too embarrassed. I had to defer to him. He was an older godbrother. But so wrestling's a Vaishnava sport. So they used to wrestle and so on. And then it's described that sometimes when he was on pilgrimage, dacoits would attack. And he single-handedly just kill them all. Dacoits, thieves, a whole bunch of them would gather around, and he'd just knock them all out, like that. And on that pilgrimage also, a tiger jumped on one of his disciples. A tiger. And he just pulled the tiger off and killed it, like a kitty cat. Bam, 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 bam. So he's very, very strong, very, very, physically very, very strong. He had a great appetite. Very, very good appetite. There's that one pastime where he sat down, and how much milk and bananas did he eat? 2,000 bananas in one sitting. Said he had a fire of digestion the size of his thumb, like that. So as vayu, because you need the air, that's for digestion. So he could just add it as much as he wanted, just eat, like that. So very, very strong. But that his glory wasn't his physicalness, his physical strength, or the fact that he ate a lot of bananas. Like get into the what is that called? Guinness Book of World Records. That he ate so many bananas. It's his preaching and defeating the non-Vaishnav philosophies of the day. And there were three of them in India at that time. You have the impersonalism of Sankaracharya. You have Buddhism, was still there. And then the Jainism had risen up also. And I just wanted to read just a little short thing before we read about Lord Ramachandra. So this is right after his sannyas initiation. Later in the day of his sannyas initiation, as Purna Pragya, that was his name at the time, offered prostrated obeisances to Lord Anteshwar in the temple, a hand gently touched his shoulder. Once again the deity had entered the body of an ordinary man. Taking Purna Pragya to his sannyas guru, who was standing nearby, the man said, I have given you Purna Pragya because I have understood your purity of devotion for me. In this way, Achyuta Preksha understood that his disciple Purna Pragya was not an ordinary human being, but had been sent to him by the Lord. Thereafter, Achyuta Preksha avoided others' association while taking special care to train his new disciple. About a month after Purna Prajna Tirtha took sannyas, a great pandit named Vasudeva came to Udupi, along with all his followers, to challenge the local scholars to debate. After arriving at the Badakari Mutt, Vasudeva Pandit asked for Achyuta Preksha, having heard his reputation as a great scholar. So this is his spiritual master. Upon meeting Achyuta Preksha, Vasudeva offered his respects and then challenged him to a debate. As word spread, the whole town turned out to witness the contest. Achyuta Preksha and Purna Prajna Tirtha sat next to each other while Pandit Vasudeva spoke on the subject of his choice. Thereafter, the Pandit continued to speak for 3 days without intermission. Do you think you have a rough time sitting in class? Everyone was amazed at how expertly he presented his subject. At the end of his concluding remarks, everyone applauded him with great enthusiasm. Purna Prajna then took up the challenge. In his reply, Purna Prajna brought up every and each point the Pandit had made, that's for 3 days, and dismantled them with strong evidence and logic. Indeed, Purna Prajna's sweet voice charmed the audience, even as it smashed the Pandit's assertions. Some of the Pandit's followers tried to defend their mentor's statements, but Purna Prajna silenced them with his incontestable arguments. Achyuta Preksha was very proud of his student. Upon seeing how he single-handedly defeated the Pandit and his followers, Achyuta Preksha considered it unnecessary for him to teach Purna Prajna any further. Indeed, he began to consider Purna Prajna Tirtha Swami to be his spiritual master, and so desired to hear more from him about life's ultimate goal. Whenever there was time, Purna Prajna studied the srimadbhagavatam, which had made its appearance after the disappearance of Lord Krishna from this world. He rightly considered it to be the ripened fruit of all Vedic literature. Once while with Achyuta Preksha, Purna Prajna Tirtha happened to hear some brahmanas reading and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. He noticed that they were deviating from the meaning presented by Srila Vyasadeva, and he began to correct them. Achyuta Preksha then interrupted Purna Prajna, saying, "If you are such an authority on Srimad Bhagavatam, let me hear your explanation of the 5th canto." Purna Prajna responded by reciting the 5th canto's prose with ease, as if he were the author of the book. The brahmanas listened to his explanations, trying to find some fault, but his presentations were faultless. There was something that no one could understand, including Achyuta Preksha. How did this mere boy possess such learning? Not only was he proficient in grammar and philosophy, he knew all the conclusions of the Vedic literature. Once Achyuta Preksha asked him, "O victorious one, how is it that you know about books that you have not even read?" Purna Prajna's Tirtha humble reply was, "I knew all of them in my previous birth." In this way, Purna Prajna Tirtha's fame began to spread far and wide. Daily he would lecture to crowds of people. Whoever heard him accepted his explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam, rejecting the fallacious ideas that they had previously heard from others. Indeed, this is one of the qualifications of a bona fide spiritual master. He eradicates all misconceptions that one may have collected by means of mental speculation, cultivation of knowledge, or personal taste. After witnessing Purna Prajna Tirtha's wonderful preaching, Achyuta Preksha decided to install him as the next Acharya of the Vedanta Pita as his successor. Thus, Purna Prajna Tirtha was installed upon the Vyasasan, much in the same way that a deity installation is performed. At this time, he was given the name Ananda Tirtha. One day, a saintly friend of Achyuta Preksha came along with many disciples to engage in debate. Guess this seems to be the thing to do, hey? They were all trained in the discipline of Nyaya, logic, and were proud of their learning. Achyuta Preksha informed his friend that he had stepped down from the Pita, and he should debate with his disciple Ananda Tirtha, who was qualified to discuss any subject. In the debate that followed, the visitors tried to put forward the theory that the individual soul, Jiva, and the Supreme are one. and the same, and that this material manifestation is illusory. What's that philosophy called? Mayavadi philosophy. Anandatirtha Madhvacharya gave unassailable evidence that the living entity is eternally subordinate to the Supreme Soul, and that the cosmic manifestation, although temporary, is not illusory, simply an imagination. The challengers tried to show that Anuman, inference, is the ultimate authority for ascertaining the truth. However, Anandatirtha demonstrated that such mental speculation must depend upon sense perception, which is always imperfect. As the arguments went back and forth, Anandatirtha tirelessly established that the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not impersonal Brahman. Next to come and challenge Anandatirtha were some Buddhists, headed by a man named Bodhisagara, who denounced the Vedas. He was accompanied by a Jain scholar named Vadisimha. Achyutapreksha countered the attack by taking the best arrow, Anandatirtha, from his quiver, his institution. A little poetry there. Many people assembled to witness the debate, and judges were selected to decide which party had emerged victorious. Vadisimha led the attack, so that was the Jain, making 18 assertions in an attempt to destroy Anandatirtha by his weighty arguments. However, Anandatirtha not only refuted each point, he smashed the envious rascal Vadisimha with just a few short and decisive sentences. At this, Vadisimha began to show his real self, shouting loudly while attempting to present more arguments. Now he hit a nerve there, right? He flipped out. He started yelling and screaming, lost his demeanor. Still, Anandatirtha countered every argument in a calm and dignified manner in his role as the best of Vaishnava philosophers. So that's a good point there in preaching. Someone may get all upset, start yelling and screaming, but the devotee doesn't yell and scream back. You know, there may be an instance like that, but it was very, very calm. Like that. Then Bodhisagara, whose name means an ocean of intelligence. That's a nice name, Bodhisagara. Next came forward with great pride to establish the supremacy of his understanding. He was the Buddhist. As soon as he confronted Anandatirtha, however, he could realize that he had vastly overestimated himself. Indeed, with only a mere slap of a sentence, Anandatirtha smashed the arrogant Bodhisagara. I wonder what that sentence was, just a slap of a sentence. The cheating rascals Vadisimha and Bodhisagara then requested Anandatirtha, let the debate take place tomorrow. We will forget about what occurred today. In reply, the two disputants gave the excuse that it was evening and an inauspicious muhurta. In fact, they presented so many excuses as to appear undefeated, but all the people knew that they had been smashed. The next morning, Vadisimha and Bodhisagara's room was found empty. In fear of losing their reputation, they had departed during the night. In this way, Anandatirtha effortlessly earned a reputation for his scholarship, while Bodhisagara and Vadisimha had earned their meager fame over a long period of time, wandering throughout the land. Anandatirtha especially attacked the impersonal philosophy of Sankaracharya, as outlined in his commentary on Vedanta Sutra, known as Sarika Bhasya. Of course, Anandatirtha would blast any philosophy that did not recognize the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indeed, his attacks were like the wielding of a sword, because he would cut opposing arguments to shreds. Actually, this is what all the devotees had been praying for, that someone would come along who could clearly and decisively explain the theistic science of God. Indeed, many devotees urged Madhvacharya to vigorously spread his teachings for the benefit of suffering humanity. So that was in the earlier part of this biography. That's Lord Vishnu had asked specifically, can I have a volunteer to come forward who will go down there and smash to pieces all these bogus philosophies that are against Krishna consciousness? Okay. Now, one thing you have to be very careful, this word smashing, you know, so we have to be very careful how we preach to people, not that we want to just humiliate them or something like that. His preaching was to the point, decisive, he knew exactly what the scriptures said and so on. And, sometimes that smashing is there if someone's a rascal and so on, but not that you have to go out and just burn everyone to a cinders with what you say. Because you may, Prabhu said, you may destroy their faith. You may destroy their faith. So he was very expert in his preaching, but very, very powerful. Because you're dealing with many, many proud people. Because they're preaching in South India, and the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said that about the South Indians. They're very, very proud people. Very, very, very proud, right? So sometimes a little bit of a strong argument is there. It's not just strong, just like I said here, that one Vadisima started screaming and yelling, not that kind of strong. Like I mentioned that day in class that Ramapi told me in Bengali culture, when two people are arguing, they get louder and louder and louder because the culture is that the louder you are, the more right you are. So they start yelling at each other, and their volume goes up and up and up and up and up and up, thinking that the louder I am, that must mean I'm right. Sometimes you see that, right? Two people are yelling at each other, and they get louder and louder and louder because thinking if I'm the loudest one wins or something. So it's not like that. It's not like that. But it's very, very strong arguments because, fortunately, in the Vedic culture, people these debates were there, and they would accept if someone had a better argument based on scripture and quoting of scriptures. Okay, it's like two lawyers in a courtroom. Whoever's quoting the previous cases in the law books the best, well, they have a pretty good chance of winning the case. Not that one is just a sweet talker or yells a lot. One has to have some substance there. So this is just this verse here. This Dharma samstapanartaya, to reestablish the principles of religion. So Madhvacharya and the great acharyas in our line, to reestablish that, because at the time in India you had these other very strong movements, especially the of Sankaracharya was practically omnipresent. So Buddhists were still there, even though he had pushed them out. And then you had the Jains beginning. And that's very interesting. I mean, they're very, very kind, non-violent, religious people. But the philosophy is quite, it's missing a lot. I was at a wedding a few weeks ago, sat down, it was a Jain wedding, and afterwards I was speaking to one gentleman, and I was just asking him, I wasn't going to blast anyone, I was just asking him, and there's nothing in there about God or just the soul, and realizing your soul, how like it's almost like becoming a mystic yogi practically. But where we came from, where we're going, what the absolute truth is, a God, nothing's in there. So it's impersonalism also. So anyways, the Madhvacharya is very, very powerful in establishing the srimadbhagavatam and the conclusion of the srimadbhagavatam. Now it's time to end. We haven't talked about Lord Ramachandra. So Lord Ramachandra, pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. One angle I was thinking about, the 6 symptoms of surrender, that verse? The verse, anukulyasa sankalpa partikulyasa bharjanam, that gopdupte varanam tata, one's feeling exclusively dependent on the Lord and the Lord's protection. So the incarnation of Ramachandra, Lord Ramachandra, is the perfect monarch, and one who is protecting his devotees. In fact, there's the pastime when Bibhishan showed up. He had left Lanka, and he crossed the ocean with some of his good friends. And when he arrived in the camp of the Vanaras, many of them thought, oh, we should kill him immediately. He's actually the brother of Ravana. And he said, no, I've come here to surrender at the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra, like that. And there's a discussion back and forth, and the Lord Ramachandra asked Hanuman what he thought. And of course, Hanuman said he's very, very sincere, and we should accept him. Whereas Sugriva and others said, no, you can't trust these guys. They're rakshasas. You can't trust them further than you can throw them, and you should kill them or drive them away or something. So anyway, Lord Ramachandra said, anyone who even once says, I'm surrendered to you, it's my duty to protect them. It is my duty to protect them. So in that mood, he's always protecting his devotees, showing them great protection and a shelter. And of course, Dharma samstapanartaya, establishing what is religion, paritranaya sadhunam, not only delivering all his devotees, but also here in this pastime of rescuing Sita. his eternal consort. And Vineshaya Duskritam. Now, who's more of a Duskritam than Ravana? When you're born and someone gives you a name, that person who makes other people cry all the time, I mean, come on. Imagine having that name. I mean, you have a name like you make everyone laugh. You laugh all the time, right? I imagine a name you just, it's like your name is you make other people cry. Who's going to invite him to a party, right? It's like, oh, here comes Ravana. Oh, I'll run the other way. So from the get-go, simply a great disturbance, like a thorn in the side of the Devatas. Very, very proud, and no respect whatsoever for religious principles. And his biggest mistake, even his wife, Mandodari, after he had passed away, she was there, lamenting on the battlefield, and said, "You're such a fool. You're such a fool. You spent your whole life just making other people, hurting others, and the big mistake you made, you took Sita. You took Sita from Ramachandra, and actually even a bigger mistake is Bibhishan told you to return her. You never listened to your brother, Bibhishan." Like that. So, what can be said? You had a big, big mistake. If you had just returned. In fact, there is the one account, I don't know if it's after Ravana had passed away, but Lord Ramachandra said, if he had just returned Sita, then there would be no enmity. I don't want Lanka. I don't want any of this. Just return Sita. It's not that, okay, get her back, now I'm going to... No. All... bury the hatchet, as they say. Just bury the hatchet. He was actually just buries. If you just had returned Sita, then all this problem. So, do you want me to read a little bit of the battle? Okay, my glasses here. And the defining moment when Lord Ramachandra made up his mind to kill Ravana, you know what that was? It was when Ravana had shot that arrow and Lakshman and knocked him out. Looked like he was practically dead. And then, of course, Hanuman went again to get another mountain of herbs and brought it back. But that was the moment. And actually, Lakshman, when he woke up, when he was revived, he said, "Kill him." He said, "Kill him." So, it was brought up in a lecture I heard recently because Lakshman came again as Lord Nityananda. And after he was hit in the head, he didn't say, "Kill the demons," he said, "Deliver them." So there's a change in the mood there. But as Lakshman, he said, "Kill him." So Ramachandra said, "Okay, now's the time to kill him." So, let me just get, because it's time here. Here it is. Okay, I'll just jump right in here because of the time. Neither opponent could easily see the other, so great was the number of arrows filling the air. So they're just shooting arrows at so much you couldn't even see the other person. Ravana pulled clear of Ravana's attack. Ram pulled clear of Ravana's attack and laughed heartily. He spoke loudly to the demon. "You are proud of your strength, O Rakshasa, but it will not save you now. Indeed, since you stole away my consort while I was not present, you cannot be considered heroic. You are a shameless coward, given over to vanity alone, vaunting yourself as a hero. You have tried taking Sita from my presence. Had you tried taking Sita from my presence, you would not be alive today. By good fortune, I see you now on the battlefield, prepared to receive the results of your despicable and evil acts. O vile one, carnivorous birds and beasts will soon feast upon your flesh and blood." So there's like some bravado there, With redoubled strength, Ram then sent wave upon wave of arrows straight at Ravana. The prince felt increased enthusiasm for the fight. He invoked all the celestial missiles, and they immediately appeared before him on the battlefield. In great joy, Ram fired the weapons at the demon one after another. This is one of the qualities of Kshatriya. He becomes very happy when there's a fighting opportunity. He recited the incantations with great full concentration as he released the arrows. Charged with the mystic power of the divine astras, the arrows tore into Ravana and sent him reeling. As he staggered about on his chariot, the Rakshasa was showered with rocks and trees by the monkeys. The demon was reduced to a sorry plight, being unable to lift his bow or do anything in his defense. He sank down on the floor of his chariot. Seeing this, his charioteer veered away from the fight and retreated. Ravana remained stunned for some time. Gradually returning to his senses, he saw that his charioteer had taken him away from the battlefield. He immediately rebuked the charioteer with harsh words. "How have you disdained me in this way, O evil-minded one? Obviously consider me to be bereft of power, heroism, and prowess. You have covered me with shame. Today you have nullified my valor, dignity, and fame. While my enemy stood expectantly before me, deserving to be gratified by my arrows, you have made me into a coward." Ravana was beside himself with fury. He accused the charioteer of siding with the enemy and ordered him to return immediately to Ram's presence. The charioteer replied that he had only done what he felt was proper duty. Ravana had been completely overpowered by Ram's weapons. Out of affection, he had desired to save his master's life. Citing verses from Scripture supporting his actions. I guess that's probably the job description. Charioteer, you better know the Shastra for what you do as a charioteer. So he's citing verses from Scripture supporting his action. The charioteer begged Ravana's forgiveness. The demon king was appeased. He nodded at his charioteer and commanded him to return with all speed to the fight. Urged on by Ravana, the charioteer lashed his horses. Within a few moments, the chariot stood again before Lord Ram. On the battlefield, Ram was himself expressing his exhaustion from the fight. In the heavens, the great Rishi Agastya Muni saw this and desired to assist him. Agastya Muni had been observing the battle from the sky along with the gods. He now descended to Ram's chariot and spoke to him. Is that Agastya, the one the size of a thumb? I think it's Agastya Muni. That's how big he is, the size of a thumb. Like that little Rishi. He now descended. O mighty armed Ram, please listen as I tell you the secret of a highly confidential prayer. The Aditya Hridaya. This prayer will invoke the powerful spiritual energy from the heart of the sun. This is the very effulgence of the Supreme Lord Vishnu himself. With this power, one can overcome any obstacle and destroy all the roots, destroy to roots all of one's enemies. Then he instructed him what that prayer was. Ram saw Ravana's chariot flying towards him, filling all quarters with its thunderous rumbling. That chariot was drawn by huge black steeds with the heads of hideous fiends. They didn't have horse heads, like demon heads. It shone with a dreadful luster and was adorned all over with brilliant rubies and celestial sapphires. Rows of pennants flew from its sides, and from its massive central standard flew a golden ensign bearing a man's head. Moving rapidly through space, it looked like a cloud containing streams of shining water and issuing forth torrents from its form of arrows, in the form of arrows. Ram said to Matali, that's his chariot driver, from the way in which he is darting back and forth into the fray, it appears that this Rakshasa is bent on his own destruction. Close upon him with care. I shall destroy his chariot, even as the wind would blow away a cloud. Grasping Indra's bow, Ram tempered his anger with patience as he waited his opportunity to attack the demon who was maneuvering on the battlefield. Matali skillfully drove the chariot in circles and gradually closed on Ravana, the two opponents releasing streams of arrows and appearing like two proud lions desiring to kill each other. Suddenly, many frightful omens appeared. Blood rained down on Ravana's chariot, while violent whirlwinds tossed it about. A flock of vultures circled over the demon. In the distance, Lanka was shrouded in a red glow. Great meteors fell from the sky and the earth shook. The sky became darkened even while the sun shone. Terrible thunderbolts and flashes of lightning fell upon the Rakshasa army. Ravana's steeds shed hot tears and emitted sparks from their mouths. Around Ram were seen many favorable signs that portended his imminent victory. The sun illuminated him brilliantly, and a gentle breeze blew from behind him. He felt his right eye and right arm throb, and his mind felt joyful. See the comparison there? As Ram and Ravana met in fearful combat, the two armies stood motionless, with their weapons held fast in their hands. Observing the man and the demon engaged in desperate duel, all the warriors, along with the gods, Gandharvas, and Rishis, watched in wonderment. The two belligerent opponents each exhibited their full prowess on the battlefield as they hurled blazing weapons at each other. So everyone else stopped fighting just to watch what was going on. They couldn't believe it. Ravana burned with indignation. He had sent a hail of flaming steel arrows at Ram's steeds. Struck by the arrows, the celestial horses neither flinched nor shook, but continued to draw the great chariot, describing various circles and movements and baffling Ravana's arrows. The demon fired a tremendous shower of maces, iron clubs, discus, and mallets, as well as mountain peaks, trees, massive pikes, double-headed axes. At the same time, he released a tremendous volley of arrows, which fell toward Ram's chariot like streaks of golden lightning. At Malati's expert handling into his chariot constantly foiled Ravana's weapons. The Rakshasa became more and more infuriated, and he directed his mystic missiles upon the army of the monkeys. Seeing this, Ram fitted celestial weapons to his bow, which sent innumerable arrows into the sky. These arrows fell upon Ravana's weapons and smashed them to pieces. You see what a dirty fighter was. He's fighting with Ram, but then he takes some time. He wants to kill all the monkeys. And so Ram saved them. No arrow shot by Ram failed to find its mark. The sky was completely filled with his golden plumed shafts. The missiles of the two fighters met each other in hundreds and thousands. They created explosions of fire and billows of smoke across the whole battlefield. Ram and Ravana fought vehemently for hours without interruption, exchanging blow for blow. Neither felt wearied nor inclined to give an inch to the other. Those observing the fight felt their hair standing on end. No one could take their eyes off the furious fighters as they battled on, relentlessly seeking victory. Ravana sent 20, then 60, then 100, then 1,000 arrows at Ram, aiming at his vital parts or seeking to kill the charioteer or his horses. Ram responded with twice that number, digging shafts into Ravana's steed's chariot, while at the same time constantly covering the demon. Even after fighting for half a day, neither seemed to have the upper hand. Ravana then composed himself and once again invoked the Rakshasa Astra. Imbuing it with all mystic potency, immediately the air was filled with a thick shower of every kind of weapon. The entire globe seemed to shake, and the ocean became agitated. Serpents and devils appeared screaming in the sky and emitting fire from their mouths. The sun lost its brilliance, and the wind ceased to blow. In the heavens, the gods themselves became fearful and cried out, "May all be well with the worlds." With full concentration, Ram again invoked the Gandharva Astra, which caused hundreds and thousands of arrows to appear and counter Ravana's weapons. These awful and demonic missiles fell to the ground and burned up, being pierced by Ram's mighty arrows. The battle between Ram and Ravana could only be compared to itself. Such a fight had never been seen at any time, even by the gods. They watched anxiously as Ram came under repeated ferocious attacks from the Lord of the Rakshasas. Ram remained calm. He took from his bow a huge razor-headed arrow that resembled a venomous serpent. In an instant he fitted it and fired the arrow at Ravana. That arrow, imbued with mystic power, divided into 10 and tore off the demons' heads. But they immediately grew again. Ram sent another weapon, which again severed the Rakshasas' heads, and again they grew back. Ram struck down 100 heads, but the demon remained standing. So there was like 100 heads on the battlefield below. Ravana's heads kept falling. Without slowing his attack even for a moment, Ram contemplated this wonderful phenomena. How is it? How was this demon to be killed? No weapon seemed to be able to take his life. It looked like the fight may go on forever. Bibhishan quickly approached Ram. He told him that the demon had a boon from Brahma, that his heads and arms could never be destroyed. In Ravana's heart was a store of celestial nectar, which renewed the life in his body. The only way to kill him was to strike at his heart with a divine weapon that could dry up the nectar. As Ram considered the next move, all the while raining arrows upon Ravana, Matali turned to Ram and spoke, "O Ram, the time for this one's death has come. Recall now the prayer of Agastya. Agastya also gave you an arrow when you met him in the forest. Imbue the arrow with the force of the Brahmastra and kill the demon by piercing his heart." It's like caddies on the golf course. You know, the caddy says, "Oh, no, I think I do," like that. So it's like cheers. They sometimes, "Oh, I think you ought to." Accepting Matali's advice, Ram remembered the celestial arrow which Agastya had given to him long ago in the forest. At once it appeared in his hand, and he fitted to his bow. Its shaft was made of ether, and its weight consisted of the Mandara and Meru mountains. How's that possible? It's made of ether, but has the weight of these two mountains. The wind god presided over its shaft, the fire god over its plumes, and the sun god was installed at its point. It looked like the rod of universal destruction wielded by the time spirit himself. Ram again chanted the Aditya Hridaya prayer and then invoked the infallible Brahmastra. As Ram drew back the arrow, he shone so brilliantly that no one could look at him. He released the weapon and it flew at Ravana, lighting up the earth and sky and roaring like a tumultuous ocean. It struck the demon on his chest even as he stood firing his own weapons at Ram. Piercing through his heart, the arrow emerged from Ram's body, soaked in blood, and then entered the earth right through him. Ravana whirled around and let out a cry which seemed to shake the entire creation. His bow dropped from his hands and he fell from his chariot like a mountain struck by Indra's thunderbolt. It says in the Bhagavatam that he fell just like a person who's used up all his pious credits falls from heaven. Like that. The Rakshasas fled panic-stricken in every direction. They shed tears of grief on seeing their lord slain. The monkeys leapt about, chasing the fleeing Rakshasas and shouting with joy. The sounds of drums and other celestial instruments sounded from the sky. Delightful breezes blew on the battlefield, carrying heavenly odors. A dazzling shower of brilliant flowers fell from the sky and covered Ram's chariot. The gods and rishis praised Ram, who stood blazing with splendor. The battle was over. Ram climbed down from the chariot and was surrounded by Lakshman, Sugriva, Hanuman, Angada, Jambavan, and Bibhishan, who all praised and cheered him for his incredible feat. So we can end here. I mean, there's more about what happened as far as the body and so on. It's interesting, Lord Ramachandra asked Bibhishan to perform the final rites for Ravana, and at first he declined. He said, he's such a sinful person, why should, you know? He said, no, he's your brother. You know, now that he's dead, all that's forgotten. When someone dies, it's over. So he agreed, and he performed everything. And then it's interesting also, he made the point that of course, Ravana fell, and all the generals and all the wives came out on the battlefield. They were, you know, embracing their husband's dead body and wailing and so on. And Lord Ram said, "There's no possibility of consoling them until before the cremation." So immediately they gathered everything, had the cremation, and after that, Lord Ramachandra spoke to them and Bibhishan to console them in their grief. But he said, until the body's burned, there's no way you can console their grief like that. So Sri Ramachandra ki jai. So Krishna says he protects his devotees like that. And also you can see from this exchange that no ordinary demon can fight with Krishna. So this is the giant Vijay came, and the extent of their potency is unbelievable. But Krishna needed a big demon to fight with. So it's quite exciting, huh? So, Sri Ramachandra ki. Sri Ramachandra Vijaya Mahotsava ki. Go Premanandi. Hari Bol.